When our kids were little, there was a gang of boys that our youngest would hang out with. And I remember there was one, he was little bitty guy. And one day the ice cream truck came by and he come up to the house. He had an ice cream in his hand. He had two big sticks in his pockets. He was wearing cargo pants, and the pockets of the cargo pants were full of candy. So I asked him if we could take a look at what he got. And he was so proud, he put it all out on the table. We began to add up the sugar. It was well over 100 grams. I convinced him to put a couple of those big sticks in the freezer and that he could come by the next couple of days and pick them up, and he agreed. His parents weren't really watching after him during that time period of their life, and so I became a surrogate parent to him. And boy, we really had to watch his sugar intake. We look at our devotional this morning. We see that God does just the reverse as he ends the dietary restrictions. There's several periods that you'll find in the Bible where God deals with dietary issues. And one is at creation. At creation, we see that God allows Adam and Eve to eat of every plant yielding seed, and that's found in Genesis 1:29. The only one they can't eat from was one particular tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and so that was the only tree they couldn't eat of. Then we find ourselves in the Noahic period, and here he allows them to eat of every moving thing that should be food for them, he says, and that is found in Genesis 9:3-4. So we don't know exactly why. There are some people that believe because the earth was underwater that there probably wasn't a lot of vegetation to eat, but we know that there was that on aboard the ark. So it's hard to know, and there wasn't a lot of them. It's really hard to know the why behind it. We just kind of know what God had said. Then we find ourselves in the law of Moses, and then God takes in this period and he begins to restrict a little bit what they can and cannot eat as it relates to clean and unclean. They might have known this because that was very clear on the ark. There were 7 clean and 2 unclean, and so they might have known this, but here we actually have it established in the Bible. And so it talks about this, that it says, whatever divides the hoof and chews the cud, that shall be clean among them. And so the sheep and the goats and the cattle, these things are clean. He also talks to him about clean birds versus unclean birds, and fish as well. Basically, it kind of gets down to, if something's a scavenger, you shouldn't eat it. I know that offends the lobster and the shrimp people, but that's the law of God. Now, we find ourselves in the church age now, and the Lord says very, very plainly in Mark 7:19 that nothing on the outside defiles a man. It's what comes out of a man that defiles him. So these have been restricted, but we have found that God had some actual health requirements for these restrictions. I years ago read a book called The Maker's Diet, and there was an individual who had Crohn's disease. And by going back to the Levitical law regarding dietary restrictions, he was able to heal that Crohn's disease. And so we see there's wisdom in what God suggests. And so if we find ourselves walking around with 1 ice cream in the hand, 2 big sticks in our pocket, and a pocket full of candy, we might realize when God says, hey, let me help you there, that he's actually looking after our health. We're probably more health conscious now than we've ever been, but there's more opportunity to eat poorly than there ever has been. So, interesting to look at these dietary restrictions. I would encourage you to take an assessment of that. But one of the things that Jesus says that we really need to focus on, it's what comes out of a man that defiles him. And so let's put the things in us, spiritual things, that are going to make us spiritually healthy. May God bless you. I hope these help. And like, subscribe. that helps other people to see them as well. God bless you.